I can remember coming back to school to junior year, and I will not name names because it was,
Yeah.
people were just had heard different things. And someone who I had been friendly with was like, looked at me and was like, "Can you walk?"
Welcome back to the Swayside Connection podcast. On today's episode, who do we have here with us today?
Hi there, you have Amber here.
Welcome, Amber. Oh, what are you drinking today?
So I have my water, which is never far away from me. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, so it is hot here and
Nice.
dry, so you have to have water.
Yes. Is that one of those? What kind of cup is that? Is that one of those Stanleys?
Yep, Stanley. Very, very typical.
I'm drinking coffee. It's morning here.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you drinking your coffee just black? Just black
Just
coffee?
black. Yep, just black.
Okay. Hardcore.
Before we started recording, you said that you had a latte this morning. Let's just start it off with coffee before I even.
Yes.
Since I'm drinking coffee, we kind of started going into it. Like, where did you get that latte from? Did you make it yourself or?
Well, so my husband made it, but we did make it at home.
Yes.
We weren't big coffee drinkers until about like a year and a half ago, and then
Really?
found ourselves like several times a week going out and getting lattes. And, we have kids, so all of a sudden we're spending like $30 a trip. And so we ended up buying one of those Ninja espresso makers, and it is life-changing. Now we drink even more coffee, unfortunately, but it's really nice, and it's not costing us $30 a pop. So that's
Dude,
good.
how does one go from not to how did that start?
Yeah, it's funny. I've heard on some of these podcasts about like the military kids, right? So I am another one of those military kids. My mom, stepdad, dad, and stepmom were all in the Army, but they all drink like black coffee. So like growing up, I was not even interested in coffee. And then Washington, the like coffee stands of like where you said like, what did you call it? The sugar coffee, the candy coffee was like everywhere, but I didn't drink that. So I don't know. It was weird. In my phase, I started drinking coffee, but then stopped. And then somehow, like about a year ago, just started getting back into like lattes and like the candy coffee of it all. But I don't know. Old, tired, sounded good.
That's what, so it sounds like, and your husband kind of like the same then, like you guys were together in this, like, and
yeah, because he wasn't really a big coffee drinker either. He's one of those like Coca-Cola in the morning people. And so, I was a big tea drinker. So we had our morning rituals. It just wasn't coffee. And so still drink a lot of tea, drinks a lot of Coca-Cola, but now.
Wow, that's awesome. So like when you would you go to Starbucks? Is that where you guys would go?
So we're not opposed to Starbucks. We do like it, but we have a little coffee place just up the street from us. It's called Window for anyone listening from Phoenix, Arizona. And it's just like a little local place. And they're super nice, super friendly. And the coffee was really good. So on one hand, you also feel good about supporting local. But to be clear, I also like Starbucks. We have one. It's like Window's this way, Starbucks is this way. And we do go to both.
Nice. And then, so what's your typical order at, if you were to go out, Windows, Starbucks, doesn't matter. Would it be the same drink?
So mostly at Starbucks, I always like check what's new, right? They'll have the like oat milk, brown sugar, shaken, stirred things, but I'm also very basic. So vanilla latte is all kind of end up. And then the Window Coffee Bar, they have a creme brulee latte, which sounds like it would be like a sugar bomb, but it's not. They managed to like balance, like it's not too sweet, and it's just
iced coffee every time since it's Arizona, or
no, bizarrely hot. Hot almost every single time, except for like at Starbucks again when they have one of those shaken things. But no, I'm a hot latte person. Even in like 120 degrees, I'm still gonna go for hot latte.
Really? That's awesome.
I know,
wow.
Weird.
I mean, to each their own, because I'll still get iced drinks in the winter. So that's not very, I mean, like I said, even if it's freezing cold outside, I'll still get an iced Americano almost every time I'm in Starbucks. So.
Okay. Well, it sounds like at home you do a lot of black coffee. When you're out, do you do something a little bit, or will you even order just a black drip when you're out in the world?
I never drink black coffee out. When I'm out, it's, it's the convenience. So, because when I'm out, the convenience, I'll pay for that because like to add ice, to do iced at home is so complicated. But to do iced out, they just add the ice or whatever. And, and then they'll have all the fixings too. So they'll have like, the sugar-free syrups or, the heavy cream or, stuff like that. So So yeah. Now, how did you hear about this podcast? How did you like stumble upon it?
Yeah. So, Brianne, we haven't really stayed in contact, but we have stayed in contact via social media, which I know people have different thoughts and feelings about that.
For
But
sure.
I love social media because you get to sort of feel like you know what's going on with people, that
Yes.
at least the highlight reel, right? So anyway, so Brianne and I are
Yes.
connected on Instagram. And so I believe she had posted about it. And I was just like, oh, that like sounds pretty interesting. And then I had found, I'm not a big YouTuber, but I had sort of found my way to it. And then I think I saw that you had like talked to James Jackson. So I listened to that one, which was really neat because not obviously, but I do remember him so well from like junior high.
Yeah,
And then ended
exactly.
up listening to a few others. It was just, before we started recording, you and I talked a little bit about just the nostalgia of it all. Like, it's so weird, but
Yes.
like the feeling I got, like listening to them, it was just such a cool feeling. I was like, wow, this like really like, it's funny. I sometimes struggle to remember the Swayside connection, and I've been calling it like Back to Spanaway. I'm like, oh, it's the Back to Spanaway podcast. Because that's sort of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what it feels like a trip back in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great point. I think it's the feeling that people get from listening, even if you didn't know that person. And then I was kind of bringing that up with you. It's like, even if you didn't know it, but then you start bringing up, like, it's almost like people have to prove they're from Spanaway when they get on. But once people realize it, like the 100 or so people that watch these, it's like people are locked in because then they're just like, oh, this person is from Spanaway. And I want to know like what their perspective is of everything, especially from back then, growing up,
Yeah.
teachers, experiences. That's why I'm happy doing this, and it's just fun, and like all those feelings people get from listening, I get from producing this too as well. So and I also hope that it helps reconnect. If people, and that's the other thing too, right? If people want to reconnect, this is also another
Yeah.
way where people can, if they want to, they could go the extra mile and, reach out. And that's what I love about the behind the scenes stuff. That's like, people have texted me like, man, I haven't talked to so and so in like, 20 years. It's crazy because that's not even
Yeah.
as long as we've been out of school, out of
I know
high
it's
school,
probably
right?
longer for some
Super long,
people,
right?
but
Yeah.
no, I think I had listened to the one with Tanitra and realized, like, I feel maybe at one point I was connected with her on social media or something, because I felt like, oh, it hasn't been that long since I've checked in with her. But then when I went to look like on Instagram and Facebook, I was not connected with her. So it was fun to kind of like reach out to her and be like, hey,
Ah,
it was so cool to hear your story. And of course,
yes.
again, like her and I were, it's funny how you say like people's perceptions, because that's one of the things as I'm, 44. I think a lot of us listening probably are around that age.
In age.
I know that my perception is not reality. It's like what I remember. And so that's a
Yes.
little
Because it's
interesting too. So
selective
I'm like,
too,
yeah,
right?
right. It's been so long, but like I remember being good friends with Tanitra in junior high. So I hope she would
Yes.
remember that too. And so it was neat to listen to her story and then like take the steps to like connect with her. And then you
Yes.
and I were already connected, I think, on Facebook, but it was just like, man, I just wanted to like reach out and tell you what I thought you were doing was so
Thank
cool,
you.
because again,
Thank you.
it is.
But it's also too like you could be connected with somebody on the socials, but because of algorithms, you might go years on social media, on Facebook,
Sure.
Instagram, whatever, TikTok, like yeah, and not see a person, especially because now I feel like as we've crossed over our 40s, it's less likely for people to post. I think less and less of us are posting on
Yeah.
socials, like because I look back at memories and I also cringe when I look back at some of my old Facebook and Instagram posts, and I'm just like, damn,
Same.
it's so cringy. I'm like, whoa, I can't believe I talked like that. And I'm
Yep.
reading this
And
and
I
I'm
thought
like,
that
man, I
was
sound
post
like I'm
worthy. Like, why did I post
yes.
that?
I'm like, I read my posts and I'm like, damn, I posted like I was 15. And I was just like, how? I think that's another reason why I'm not on there as much, is because I cringe out myself. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's so but yeah, so that's why it's just so crazy kind of like doing that. But where were you born? And
Yeah.
like which elementary schools did you go to? And then how did you come to Spanaway? And that
Yeah. So I was actually born in Panama. I don't remember it at all because I think we left when I was like one, but so I
that's
was
me in
born
Germany.
overseas. Yeah.
Yep,
Well,
I
and
left when I
so
was
I
one.
heard, where in Germany were you?
I was born in Wiesbaden, and then I
Okay.
left. And then like Darius was born in Wurzburg, and
Okay.
then DJ was born in Heidelberg, and
Okay.
Randy was just on. He was born in. It's crazy how many people that were born in Germany. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. I just
Yeah.
found out that Colleen was born in Landstuhl, and so yeah, so there's a ton of us that were
Yeah.
born
A
in
lot of
Germany.
Germany.
Yeah,
Well, so
a
I
lot of
wasn't
Germany.
born in Germany, but I did spend some time there. But we were in Nuremberg. Well, okay, so born in Panama, then we
Yep.
were in Hawaii for a little while, and then that's where my parents split when we lived in Hawaii, and my mom came to actually Washington. So I would have been about 3,
Okay, still really young.
still very young. And so we lived in like Tacoma for a little while, but did move to Spanaway. And I lived, I think I went to Elk Plain. This would have been my second grade year, but then we moved to Germany. So we had moved to Washington. My parents were at Fort Lewis. That's where my mom and my stepdad met. And then my mom was still in the military. So she got stationed in Germany. We went
Okay.
there. Like I said, we
Do you
were
have
in Nuremberg, but we
siblings?
had, yeah. So I have an older sister, and then I have a little sister so my older sister, we have the same parents. And then my little sister, we have same dad, different mom, but all three of us are really close. But so then we were in Germany, in Nuremberg, but spent some time in Wurzburg because we had friends there. So I feel like when a few folks said Wurzburg, I was like, oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
Then from Germany, we were back in Hawaii and then in Georgia, and then didn't get back to Spanaway until 7th grade. And so that was like the start of Cedar Crest. So kind of there a little bit when I was young, but really Megan was a girl that was in our junior high with us. We went to 2nd grade together and we did remember each other. So that was kind of a
Whoa.
fun, like in
Yes.
7th grade, I think it had been a couple months in, and she was like, did you used to go to Elk Plain? And we had been really close friends. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, so 7th grade was really like enter back Spanaway into my life,
Yes.
and Cedar
That's very
Crest and
sim
all of that.
Yeah, that reminds me of DJ's experience because same thing. He was in Spanaway for a little bit and then he left. He came back in 8th grade, and same
Yeah.
thing. Like people remembered, like he remembered seeing people from when he was in elementary. And so that's so crazy how so many of us are just so used to adapting
Yeah.
from moving so much. It's
Yeah.
like, wow.
Well,
So,
like the resiliency, but it was kind of weird. And so it'd be interesting how many other people kind of could relate to this. So when I was little, like post 7th grade, when I moved around, I was either in a DoD school, right? So the Department of Defense school. So all military kids. So military kids are used to
yeah.
like, come, go, here today, gone tomorrow. New kids come in, and it's not anything weird. And then the couple times I was in like public school, you were the new kid, and that was exciting, right? People were
Yes.
like, ooh, new kid. And so the first time I moved back to Spanaway the summer before 7th grade and started school, and it was the first time I had started school and like a lot of people were new, right? Because in 7th grade,
Yeah.
all the different elementary schools were
Yeah.
feeding in.
We're all new.
Like, yeah, but no one knew, like, I was new, had no friends new. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
it was probably the first move that was kind of hard, where I was like, oh, like, I'm not just going to make friends because I'm the new kid, or I'm not going to make friends because so and so works with my mom. And, it was just, that was probably one of the hardest moves I had, was, even though it ended up being so wonderful, but coming to Cedar Crest as a brand new, but everyone knew, right? So everyone was kind of looking for the people they knew, their comfort zone. And I was like, but I don't have anyone. I have no comfort
Yeah.
zones. That was a little tough.
It's funny that you say that because I remember, like, even as a little kid, having super high anxiety. I wasn't even thinking about the friends where, we were forced to go to school. We go to school, right? And then, it's not that bad, right? But
Yeah.
and especially
Yeah.
because, half of my friends, if not all of them, were coming over for like, it was just other new people that we were meeting and stuff. But like, it's just funny, just me thinking, because I remember like that day before school started, like really being super anxious going into something new. Thinking about Cedar Crest too, I always thought it was funny how early school started for us too.
Yes. Was it
Was
like
that such a,
7:06 or something?
yes,
Like something
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. It was very early. Very
I
early.
remember that was the other change that was so different from, elementary school. I forgot. It was definitely not before 8, I don't think. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden we're starting school like at 7, like something super early. Basically, you had to be at school before 7 to get situated. So
Yeah.
I
And
remember
for those of
that.
us that walked, right, we're like walking through
Yeah,
like
so it's
the
dark.
backwoods of Cedar Crest in the dark. Luckily,
Yeah.
there was a group of us, like some other people have mentioned. But yeah, wild. Especially also kind of cut to today. Like I almost hate to admit this. Like my boys are 16 and 15. I think it's just in the last couple years I let them take the garbage out at night without making the other one go with them, and it's literally like the driveway, right? Because
Yeah.
we know too much about what can happen in the world, but our parents were just like, go flourish.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
very different.
That's what amazes me about how nonchalant parents in the 80s and 90s were. I think there was just less information too about what could possibly happen
Yep.
as well,
Yep.
So, I
That's
mean,
what
who
my
knows
take
what
on
was.
it. I think a lot of the same things were happening, but it wasn't like in your face a
Yes.
million times. And so
Yes.
I also think, like, again, we're all kids of military parents. They are also just different.
Yeah.
Military parents are a different breed. I
Yeah.
love my parents. I have great relationships with them, so
Same.
nothing negative, but just,
Yep.
grateful for how I was raised. But definitely my kids would have a very different impression of like me. And then even now knowing my parents as grandparents, sometimes I'm like, Papa lets you get away with that. But I promise you, had I even said half of that sentence, different
Yeah.
story.
I will give it, and I think part of it too with the, that our parents' generation is they were kind of forced to parent in a certain manner to maybe with all the moving and stuff like that. And
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
so, okay, that's awesome. So it was you and your sister that you guys went to Germany, came back
Yep.
to,
Yep.
and then came
So
back to
my
Spanaway.
sister
Okay.
Heather, who also went to Spanaway, like she would be class of 95, I believe. And so it was actually kind of nice because she had been a little older when we were in Washington.
She was
She
a
remembered,
sophomore at Spanaway Lake when she came back, and then you were a
yep,
seventh grader.
yep. So
Wow.
like kind of going into different schools, but she had remembered Mike, Monica, and Michelle, who,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, so you know
Yep.
them. She had remembered where Mike lived. So we got back and again, this was a different time. So we moved
Yeah.
back to Spanaway the summer before 7th grade,
Oh,
her
because
10th grade
they
year.
were same grade. They were the same grade.
So
Her and
yep,
Mike were same
Mike
grade,
and
right?
Heather were the same grade. Yep. And then
85.
Michelle, year older than me, and then Monica, a
Yes.
year younger than
97.
me. And
Yep.
so
99.
we just walked over and like knocked on their door and they answered and we're like, we're back. I don't know. I don't even know how long it had been yet, right? 5, 6 years.
That's awesome. That's
And
so 90s.
we all just, yeah, right? Like, I feel like it'd be a little different day, but we all just like picked up where, like, to this day, Monica continues to be one of my best friends. Heather, like, they all still live in Washington. So Heather's very close with all of them. And I, talk to Michelle here and there, Mike more on social media, but it's just what, just went over and knocked on the door because we just, of course, we're all still going to be friends, right?
Yes. That's awesome. I loved like when you could just do that and just reconnect with people like
Yeah.
time hasn't really gone by. And I feel like that happens to a lot of the people that do reconnect on here, where it feels like you could just pick up right where you left off, even though,
Yeah.
and this is crazy because now it's been a long time for a lot of people. And so to just pick back up right, after multiple years now,
Yeah.
so that's awesome. So now you're at Cedar Crest, and did you do any extracurriculars while you were at Cedar Crest?
So 7th grade year, I did try. Turns out I'm not very sporty, but I did try. Like I think I tried to play soccer. I tried to play volleyball. So Monica and Michelle. Monica was still in the elementary school because she was in 6th grade, so I'm in 7th, and Michelle is in 8th. And Michelle, all the very sporty, so she's like, "Come on, try this, try that." And I was like, okay. I can remember soccer is where I got to know Shantae, if you remember
Yep.
Shantae. And
Yep.
so we played soccer. But remember at junior high, there was C team. So 7th grade, you got to play,
Yeah.
right? You were not getting cut. We had a C team. So I really benefited from the C team, but really kind of realized that year that this was probably not going to be my path.
All good. All good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I did. I didn't do any sports at Cedar Crest. I didn't do any. The
No?
only yeah. I just no. I didn't do any.
Okay.
I Looking back, man, I really wish I did because I would have had a lot more fun. I think I would have enjoyed junior. I mean, I had an okay time at Cedar Crest, but I think I would have enjoyed it way more if I were more involved. Actually, the only sport I did do was track, and that was like our ninth grade year, right before the end of leaving Cedar Crest, right? And so that was it. That was, and
But you played
now look,
sports in high school, right?
I
So
did
in
in
high
high
school,
school.
did you
Yep.
go on? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
High school, I played football all 3 years, and that's what I was also saying. I think I would have been better at football if I had played while I was at Cedar Crest. I think I would have learned a little bit better, and yeah, I just think I would have developed more. I didn't really develop and stuff, but I was in choir basically the whole time. That was kind of like my what I really liked to do when during that whole time period for junior high and high school.
Yeah.
Like I
And we
loved
had
being in
good
choirs.
singers in our junior high. Like I still remember, was it The Sound of Music? And it was like Jonah and Emily. And I mean, again, talk about
Yeah.
perception, but I'm like, I go to Broadway shows and I'm like, they could be up here doing this. Like they were just as good. But I can remember thinking
Yeah.
that we had like wonderful singers in our
Yeah,
junior high.
absolutely. Yeah, I think we had great singers. I just remember just being around a lot of like very talented people during that time. What I really liked about choir is that we always took like a trip every year. So that was like just fun, like leaving to go somewhere, like going on a trip. And
Yeah.
then you get to go with like, half of your friends that were in choir too and stuff. So yeah. So, any other extracurriculars in junior high or?
So not really extracurricular, but I think in junior high, I might be wrong, but I think you had to do like either choir, band, or art, maybe. I think you had to do something, right? You had to have some kind of elective. So I did play clarinet all through seventh, eighth, and ninth, not with any acclaim or really reason to mention it, but I played. I was in the band. I did okay. I practiced when I was supposed to. And I think we got to do like the daffodil parade a couple years or something like that. So it was fun, but yeah, nothing too memorable.
Yeah, no worries. That's you didn't do band in high school?
No. So I think high school must have been a little bit different where it was like we probably had to have so many credits in just these different areas. Cause I think it was like my senior year. I remember having to take ceramics or
Yeah,
something, but it
I think
must
you
have
need a
not been as regimented as it was in the junior high.
I think you needed a certain fine arts credits,
Yeah.
right? And so if you
Yeah.
took band in ninth grade, then I think you probably needed like maybe 2 years of fine arts.
Okay.
So, right, like your ninth grade year counted as 1 year of fine arts.
Yeah.
And then you probably had to scramble for that last year of fine arts. So then that's kind of
Yeah.
why you would jump in. Like people were taking ceramics, photography was also another one.
Yeah.
And then obviously the band and choir are like sort of like some easy ones that a lot of people tend to jump in and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
But mainly from junior high, like I feel like what I made, and again, this is perception, right? Like someone else might remember it very differently, but I just remember like all of us were just friends. And again, I don't know if that was just my perspective, but I think about, it didn't feel in my memory, it didn't
Yeah,
feel clicky, right? It felt
yeah,
like there was like this huge group, especially by the time we got to ninth grade. There was like this big group of people, and obviously people had their friends, right? Like you had your people that you might call after school or you were like spending a little bit more time with. But like during like I feels like we all used to just stay after school and hang out like downstairs where like the lunchroom was.
yeah.
Um
That was my perspective, at least like ninth grade year. And especially because I felt like for me, it really shifted. Plus, I think it also helps too, because we were the oldest in the school and, like being basically like the seniors of the school and kind
yeah.
of being around and I think all that helped too
Yeah.
as well.
And it's funny. I feel like seventh grade kind of knew finding my feet. Eighth grade was good, but I wonder how many of us would maybe feel the same way about ninth grade. Like because I think maybe it was you or Tanisha I was saying too. I don't remember a ton about high school. And there's a few reasons for that we can kind of get into. But ninth grade year is like probably my favorite year of school.
School?
I just remember, and again, perception, right? Someone else would be like,
Yeah.
Amber, I remember this, and this, that thing. And so I'm not saying it was perfect, but I just
Yeah.
remember having like friends that I really liked, that I thought really liked me. I remember feeling very comfortable wherever I went, that, everyone kind of got along. There was just fun, right? I remember
Yes.
going to parties and the dance. I mean, can't remember who it was. I think it was Bree that was talking about the Spanaway junior dances, which obviously
Yes.
you and I didn't go to. The Cedar Crest
Yes.
dances, though, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would not. Thank God there was no video recording, right? Thank God there was no social media
Yeah.
back then, because whoosh, but they were fun. We had so much fun.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's funny because I don't, you know what? I didn't go to any dances until ninth grade year. So that was
Yeah.
also because I don't think I don't remember going to dances in seventh or eighth grade, but ninth grade was basically
Yeah.
I kind of like that's when I start like I didn't do any sports until track and that was at the end. I didn't really go to any dances. I definitely went to the ninth grade dance, but I think I went to dances earlier that year because I do remember like them just being kind of awkward too, just like looking back and like
If you look back, they're awkward. I feel like at the time they might have been fun, but yeah, looking back, I'm like, what were we doing?
yeah, it was, I mean, because it was like, yeah, to like dance with girls, like the most, it was like slow dances were like the best time. I felt like they were the most comfortable time for guys to dance with girls because it was, you could be on beat and it's like the songs were so slow that you could just kind of like not be off beat. And I felt like
Yeah.
up tempo songs, like, because there was like, obviously there's like chaperones there and like there's all this other stuff. So,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it was just weird dancing, like maybe like the upbeat songs. I don't know. This
Yeah.
just me like thinking back to like just the random junior high. And I think I only went to like a couple that year, but yeah. So,
Yeah.
any favorite teachers, classes from junior high before we move into the high school years?
Yeah. I feel and it's so awful. I don't have a memory for like the names, but I feel like someone else has mentioned him. The teacher that taught us the military alphabet from, I think it was a history teacher, but you had to learn like the Alpha, Bravo, Charlies. Do you remember that?
It
Who
might have
that
been
was?
Dr. Hunter that did that.
That sounds right.
It might
Yeah.
have been. I can't confirm 1,000%, but if there's any of them that would, because he was in the military,
Yeah.
and I think it would have been his class. And I think he did teach history. So I think
Yeah.
it was
Yeah. But
probably him that did that, that made us
yeah,
teach
so
that
I
or
remember
learn
really
that. Sorry.
liking him. And then someone else has mentioned Mr. Brave. I remember really enjoying his class because he kind of taught us a lot about like kind of his culture and different things like that. So I thought that was awesome. But it's funny, from like the school part of junior high is a little bit of a blur. I don't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
remember that part.
Yeah. As I do these, it unlocks like other random memories from that time every now and
Yeah.
then. And so I just remember like little things, like I remember getting like Jolly Ranchers from the student store and just like little things like that.
Yeah.
And I just also
Yeah.
remember like junior high was the first time I remember going to like a pep assembly and I was just like, whoa, what
Yes.
is this?
They were
Like,
always so fun. Yeah. I
yeah.
remember that too.
It was like, oh, we just get to come in this gym and then like scream and dance and
Yeah.
like not worry about school for like an hour or so. And
Yep. Yep.
yeah, so that's why
No,
it
those were
was,
really
yeah.
fun.
Now, okay, so now high school now, right? We're going into high school. Yeah, what are some of did you do any activities in high school? Or even if you
So
were outside of school activities?
yeah, in sophomore year, remember, just, I only did this sophomore year, but do you remember like around homecoming, there was like joust where they put
Thousand
on the
percent.
little skits?
Yep.
Sophomore year, I think it was like, I think I went into sophomore year being like, it was a little bit weird because almost every single one of like my core, like close friends was not coming to high school with me. So, I had
Yeah.
friends in Rogers, I had friends going to school in Tacoma,
Wow.
and but I can remember, and again, perception, but I remember Kina walking into high school on the first day of school. And then in my memory, and not in any falling out way, nothing negative at all, but I just remember we didn't really talk a lot after that. But I think it was because in my memory, high school did have really solid groups of people that you might kind of gravitate to. And I feel like sophomore year, I wasn't walking in with anybody that we really gravitated towards the same groups.
Yeah.
But I was like trying to be a joiner. I was like, okay, I'm going to do key club and I'm going to do
Yeah.
joust and I'm going to do all of these different things. It was kind of short lived. It was fun at the time, but I think that's how I met like Katie and Brianne and some of the folks from Spanaway. So did kind
Yeah.
of expand my friend group a little bit. And then she goes by Quinn now, but Jenny was one of the girls that had been in Spanaway but came to Cedar Crest. And then we were in high school together. And I think Tanika was involved in some things too. She was a cheerleader, so she was a little bit busy. But so yeah, sophomore year I did a few things, not too many.
Yeah, but I also think too, like sometimes, obviously it does get a little bit cliquish, but then also the other dynamics is people get booed up, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
that'll just take time away from, spending core time with some people
yeah,
that you're used to spending hardcore time with. And so, yeah, no, it's interesting how the social dynamics just sort of change
yeah.
when that happens. And then you never did joust again after that sophomore year?
No, right between sophomore year and junior year, I was in a car accident, a pretty traumatic
Uh,
car accident where I had pretty significant back injury that I had surgery. I
snap,
had to wear a back brace for a year. So I think honestly, in so many
snap.
ways, when I think about like my life and who I am and some of my relationships, I think that was like one of the best things that happened to me, right?
Whoa.
Because I think you can go left or right sometimes, and having something like that happen to you, you know who your friends are, you know what's important, you learn some things pretty quickly. So junior year, I was kind of just in my own world because I was just going through a lot of things
1,000%. That
personally.
makes sense. Yeah.
It wasn't like, I mean, besides like some pain, it wasn't a bad year because that was the year that, like, I got a boyfriend that year who was a really lovely person. And so we spent a lot of talk about being booed up. We spent a lot of time together. Brianne and I had been friends sophomore year, but actually spent a lot of time together junior year as well. But I think I was a lot more like insular. Like I was just more to myself, which,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that that accident was something that was like, I love that your thought process was like, man, it was like a positive experience. That's such surprising to
yeah,
hear because usually a lot of people would think, something like traumatic like that happening because that sounds pretty serious. I didn't realize that happened. So it's
yeah,
but for you to
yeah.
look
And
back
it's,
at it, expand on how positive it was for you now that you look back on it.
yeah, for sure. One, it was also kind of weird because again, it was before social media, it was before texting. So it was in the summer, I think it was like late June, and people knew it had happened, but not everybody knew for sure what had happened, right? So like I would hear people say, "Oh, I thought you had died. I thought
Oh
you
my
were in
God.
a wheelchair," right?
Wow.
Like I can remember coming back to school to junior year, and I will not name names because it was, people
Yeah.
were just had
Yeah.
heard different things, and someone who I had been friendly with was like, looked at me and was like, "Can you walk?" And I was standing there,
Whoa.
and I was like, "Yeah," so that had been a little bit interesting too, coming back junior year, where it's not like it was like crazy everybody was talking about. That's not what I'm saying, but people had heard about it, but
Yeah.
only it wasn't the day and age where you hear about things and then you know what happens. It was like
Yes.
people didn't really know what had happened. And so coming back, there was a little bit of conversation.
I
But
think
really,
there's still
I
a
think,
lot of mystery out there that happens with people and
yeah.
now because there's like misinformation now. So
Hmm.
but the fact that anybody knew anything also just shows you just like, man, how gossipy kids are. Like, damn,
Oh my gosh.
how would these people
Yeah.
even know? That's crazy that people even knew anything. That means obviously there is some gossiping happening just because
Yes.
that's like, what the I would have been like, how the hell did you even know? Like that's what's
Yeah.
crazy. So yeah.
No, but I mean, kids are kids, but it
Kids.
was,
Yeah, for sure.
so I think like sophomore year, I think what felt important sophomore year was knowing people and being known. And maybe like, I was never like popular, but maybe the pursuit of popularity, maybe that would have sounded great. And so those were the things that felt important, maybe more so sometimes. And I don't love to admit this, but like, than my real friendships, right? Like I had real true blue friendships, but was I looking for something better, shinier, right? And I'll never really know because being in my accident, people, my real friends came I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. My real friends came every day, every other day. And now you have to think, I was in Madigan, so I was on the military base.
Yeah.
Not everyone drove, right? So their parents were driving them in, right? Like people would like call me and, and so it's been so long ago, I might get a little choked up, but like there was no way not to know who my friends were, who I mattered to. And so I think it was just a good wake up call of like, what do I really want, right? Do I want to have people in my life that I matter to? And do I want to pour into them? Or do I want to give my energy to this ideal,
to
right?
the
This
shiny
high school ideal.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so again, I would love to believe that I would have gone that path no matter what. Right. But I feel like I got fortunate that there was no choice, right? When you're, and coming out of the hospital, I, could maybe move around for like an hour at a time. Like
my
Brianne
God.
is one person that I remember like coming and picking me up, and we went to a baseball game, and I was like and it's funny, I don't even know if she would remember this, but like I couldn't really move, and I wasn't really probably the most fun person to be around, but she was my friend. And Monica was somebody that was there the whole time, and Ronnie, one of the kids that we had gone to junior high with and high school with, he came every single day. And so I really had an opportunity to know who my friends were and have the opportunity to kind of pour into them and be the friend to them that they had been to me.
Dude, that's awesome. That's because man, I'm just like really taken aback from that story, because it's ultimately, even with me starting this channel and like putting yourself out there, having people come on, put themselves out there. Like, I think so many people are so like timid or scared to start like a YouTube channel. And because I think that's one of the things that I really try to preach to people is starting that. But I think there's freedom in being yourself and letting the people that like you for being you, and then versus trying to cater to the crowd in some sense, right? And I think like you found that freedom, and just like you being you were able to find your true friends that, like solid bonds and friendships, versus trying to cater to, the rest of everybody else that you maybe thought you wanted the adoration from and stuff like that. Man, man, thank you for sharing that. That's like, see, that story like that is like profound. And so, because that also reminds me of another story I just recently heard of. It's about Wilbur Wright. Have you heard of this story? Wilbur Wright, in like late 1800s, he was supposed to go to Yale. He gets punched in the face really, really badly, like really hard, where he's bedridden for years. He reads all these books about bicycles, and then he reads these books about birds. He ends up never attending Yale. So his life had been wholly changed, but him and his desire for like learning while he was bedridden, he learns about bikes and birds, and he comes up with the question, how come like man can't fly? How come people can't fly? And so him and his brother, they open up a bike shop, and then, maybe 15 years after that whole thing happened, they invent flight. They end up flying. And so now, because he got punched in the face, we all fly now every day. Like, it's just a crazy thing, because if he had gone on to do the thing that he wanted, he thought he wanted to go to Yale, he wanted to, and then pursue none of that happened. He gets punched in the face, and like, it's crazy, because it's like, easily you can think like, hey, this is over, my life is not worth anything or whatever. But like, that story alone, just like, so when I hear people go through like physical things and people saying that it's a positive thing that happened, I think that immediately made me think of that Wilbur Wright story of like, like, you can get punched in the face, but amazing things like can happen, and like, I think having that thought like in your mind too, like now you have that memory and that core, and having that early, because I feel like sometimes a lot of people won't unlock that insight into life and to like, until much later. But you as a junior in high school, like, to have that, man, that's so valuable. Like, what a valuable thing to kind of have that, at a young age. That's just amazing. Like, once again, I'm so thankful for you to share that with us. And then,
I love that Wilbur story. I hadn't heard that before, but that's definitely like, it's I mean, I think I won't sit here and say like every single thing that happens can be
For sure.
turned into a positive. I think there's some things that happen that just suck and shouldn't even try to turn them into positives. But I think a lot of things, if you think about like what it unleashes or the threads or what it enables you to do next, there is some positive to be found in hard things. And I think when you can open your
1,000%.
mind to that and think like, okay,
1,000.
this is awful, but what is it going to bring? What can I open myself up to this different thing? And so I think that's
Yeah.
important when you can. Again, like I'm not one saying that everything can be turned into that, but I think a lot of things can be.
No, I think, and I will go on the opposite. And I will say you can turn that into,
Okay.
because I have read just recently, and this book is probably 10 years old. It's like The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
Okay.
It's Ryan Holiday's known for stoicism, and just reading that book in the last year, like he basically brings that up, that terrible things are going to happen to all of us. Everybody is struggling with something. We don't know what that is. It could, and then there's different levels, there's different nuances, right? And sometimes those things we can't control ourselves, but the one thing that we can control is how we respond to anything that happens to us. So,
Yes.
and basically like the title says, the obstacle is the way. Like when bad things do happen and struggle happens, that is an opportunity to show ourselves, most importantly, how we can like overcome whatever it is. And you can have the thought process of being depressed or whatever. Trust me, I've been there. I've been depressed and I've gone through, but it's also an opportunity to kind of like prove to yourself that, hey, you don't have to be depressed, and you can, like, it gives you the opportunity to like see what you're made of pretty much. And like, it gives you the opportunity, like, okay, something bad happens to you. How do you respond? Will you, and so I think like having that when those hard things happen, it's like a challenge, like, and it's not a fun challenge by any means.
No.
But I think if you can overcome a challenge like that, like, you, Wilbur Wright going through what he did, you kind of going through what you did, and these challenges continue to happen over time, because that's just life. Like things happen all the time. And so I think just having that mindset and looking at it as an opportunity, and it's hard too, because right, like I think I know what you're
Yes.
saying, right? There's some
Yeah.
like tragedies and there's some very
Yeah.
brutal things that happen to people,
Yes.
right? And it's so hard to like, it sounds good, like, hey, just make it positive, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
we're
And I
not,
think that's where I tread lightly with that, where it's like,
yeah.
there's maybe some things, but it's funny. This reminds me, I need to sign up for your newsletter. What is it? Books that make you better. I feel like
Yes. And
we
I've
could
been,
probably,
yeah, I've been slacking on that too, because I kind of like, I've been doing these, I've been focusing on the YouTube, and I do need to get back. Cause I mean, it was really good. I just feel really like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel dumb, but I feel like, man, reading these books is like, man, there's like a book is a cheat code to
yeah. No,
like
heinz,
all
like
this
I am
information.
always listening to like a development book where maybe in
Yes.
the past it was like self-help or it might be like corporate professional development, but it's just to me development. But like I'm always listening to something. And when I saw that you had your newsletter, what is it? The Art of War or is it the Art of War? Is
Yes.
that the one
That's the
that you did?
first
I
one.
haven't listened to that yet, but I was like, ooh, okay. I know that's not what we're here to
Sorry.
talk about
It's
today,
the
but maybe
war
another
of
time.
art. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
the
the
War
opposite.
of Art.
The War
Okay.
of Art, which is a great
The
play
War
on
of Art.
words, because the Art of
Okay.
War is very like known, and like, but
Yeah. I was going to say,
Stephen
I feel like I've heard of
Pressfield.
that one.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a short book too. I haven't read that one yet, but The War of Art is a really nice short book, and it's just like really
Okay.
inspiring. It's one of the things that got me to start this YouTube channel and the newsletter, and so it's just like it helped catapult basically me getting into action. And I think that's what a lot of people just like, cuz so many people have all these amazing ideas, but it's
Yes.
the action part, it's the executing part that is
Yep.
like, it's a huge wall to climb for people for some reason. It's, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Talking about something is often kind of comfortable and exciting, but then it's like, okay, but the next step is like you have to put into action. And that I think
yes,
that's hard, right? That's the hard part.
exactly. And I'm not a big reader. So that's why I also started that newsletter, to
Okay.
force myself to be a reader. Cause like almost
Okay.
every book that I've mentioned, I read in the last literally like 6 months, right? Maybe even like,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. I'm not pretending like, hey, I've read all these books through all this, the last 30 years since we got, no, I'm like the last,
Like last 6 months.
Yes, I'm all goes back to like changing your like mindset and like, when it comes to like the obstacle is the way. It's like, okay, what's blocking me and like how can I turn these things around? And so
Yeah.
are you a big reader? Like yeah.
Yep. So I'm a big
Awesome.
reader in general since I was like
Nice.
little. I prefer fiction, but like I do read a
Yeah.
lot. The development books, if you will, I listen to those because I just can't, if I'm going to read, like like I said, big reader, I want to be reading fiction, but I read a lot though. But I
Yeah.
started listening to the,
What are some of your favorite fiction books? Were you a big Harry Potter fan?
you know what's crazy? I love the Harry Potter movies. I have never read the books. I've been told I would really like the books, but
Never done
I'm
either.
pretty,
So I've never read. Oh, I know. I know.
do you have
I have
like,
the
is it just not your genre or like, why?
I don't
Why have you
know. I
not?
don't know. I mean, I have all the books though. I haven't read them though.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, and I just never saw any of the movies either. I just felt like we were old. I don't know. It's just it never appealed to me. And I'm not
Yeah.
opposed to like ever starting them because I think it'll
Yeah.
probably be, and then that's kind of why I have the books too. But it's like I'm also like kind of like on your development stage thing. I'm like, okay, that'll be fun for one day. I want to kind of get better in other areas before I dive into those. So yeah, so that's nothing wrong with it. I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, it's,
I brought it up because they're just so popular, right? So I just
yes.
assumed you said fiction, so I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So
No, people, especially that know how much I read and the fact that I love the Harry Potter movies. My husband and I watch them. We start them in like November, and then our aim is to finish them by New Year's. And so that's kind of like our Christmas, if you will, like our holiday tradition. So I love
how
the
many
movies.
how many movies are there?
Seven. I think
Because
there's
I'll
seven.
probably do that one. That sounds like something I would
Yeah.
do maybe one year.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like a dope
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
start in
No,
November and then kind of finish
do it.
in
Yeah.
by the new year type of thing.
Yep.
See, okay,
Yep. And
yep,
because they're not Christmas movies, but they were released in December. So there is that like
yes,
kind of nostalgia. But almost every movie, no, I think every movie has like a Christmas scene and like the first, like you are in for like, you know how people say like, oh man, like
I
I wish I
wish
could go back
go
and not
back.
have seen
Yep.
this. Yes. So you are definitely in for a treat. But I don't know why it's funny. They're so
Think I'll like them.
long.
I already that,
Yes.
like I
Yes.
because you're not the only person where I've had this conversation with. I've had this conversation with multiple people
Yeah.
about both the books and the movies, and so
I
they're
heard the
just
books are
like,
fantastic.
yeah. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like I'm not opposed to it, so I will definitely check those out.
Yeah.
But
But like, yeah, I read like just kind of what's popular. Like there's an author right now called Taylor Jenkins Reid, and she writes a ton of books, and so I read her stuff. People listening to this, Fourth Wing is like a fantasy series that's out right now. I've read that. I'll read almost anything. Like yeah, I just really love to read. But then yeah, and I started doing audibles for the development books. So like every morning I listen to 20-30 minutes of a book. But you were kind of saying it like reading kind of, I know this is not supposed to be about reading, so you might have to edit all this out, but
no,
like
no, no, no. This is about
the
life. This is
unlock,
about
right?
whatever.
Like, because I can't even, it's funny, I can't even remember what book this was from, but it talked a lot about sort of shifting your perspective, right? Like reframing was kind of the words that they used.
Mm,
And recently I had a situation professionally, and I just could not look at it any other way but negatively, right? And so then there's a lot of they're doing this and this is happening. And my poor husband, my poor family and friends, because I was just so frustrated, but there was nothing I could do, right? And then kind of I all of this sort of starts coming together, and I'm like, okay, that's not true, right? Because I can look at it differently. I can try to get in there. I can figure out where my angles are. And like when I was able to kind of get my arms around it, now I feel completely different about that situation. Nothing has changed in the situation except for me and the way I'm choosing to look at it. And it's been like a literal 180. But I think sometimes like if I had never taken the just time to like immerse myself in these words and these readings, again, like several different books, I couldn't, like I said, couldn't tell you which one it was from. I don't think I would have been able to take like the ownership to like, I mean, this will only change if I change it. And really the only thing I can change is how I look at this, which that's powerful, So yeah.
powerful. That reminds you that you have agency, that you have a lot more control than what you think. And I think a lot of times we get stuck and we don't think we have that much control, but just that control that you have of you controlling your perspective on how you look at,
Yeah.
like, because like you said, a lot of things that were exterior did not change, but one thing
No.
that did change was you putting in the change to see how you looked at it. We have so much power and agency over our own lives that, and a lot of times we don't notice it that we do, because it just feels like we're
Yeah.
just riding the waves of what life brings us, and we're just,
Yeah.
getting knocked back and forth. But there's control in there, no matter how small it might start out. When you're driving or like traveling, do you listen to that stuff too, or do you listen to like music? I'm just curious.
So I'm a big podcast person. So I listen to the books when I'm getting ready in the morning, because I'm also, have you read Atomic Habits?
Yes.
Loved Atomic Habits. And that's
It's
actually the
amazing.
first one I listened to. And I read that one a long time ago, but it talked about like habit stacking and kind of
Yes.
like discipline over motivation. And so I was like, okay, I know I want to do this. What do I do every single day? Every single day I get ready, right? I work. So without fail, I have to shower and get
Yeah.
ready and do all of
Yeah.
that. So I knew that was time that I was like, okay, let me just put that in there. But I am a huge reality TV junkie, and I listen to reality TV podcasts
Yeah.
insanely. Like if I am cleaning in my car outside for any moment, like 2 minutes, I'll put in my reality TV podcast because it is just my favorite thing.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
what's your like favorite reality TV show?
So I'm big Bravo. So I pretty much watch everything on Bravo, but there's a series on Bravo called Below Deck. Do you know it? Have you ever heard of Below Deck?
No.
Okay. So essentially it's about like a yacht crew, right? And so these people that work on a yacht, but then they have different guests that come in, but mainly it focuses on like the reality of this yacht crew and the job that they
Yes.
have. It's probably my favorite because it's one that my husband will watch with me.
Nice. Yeah.
He's not a huge housewives person, but he likes this show. So when I was kind of coming up before in my past, I was a waitress. I worked in restaurants, and then my husband was a chef. And so one of the components of this show is there's a chef on deck or on the boat, and they have to cook these meals.
Yeah.
And then the job is literally taking care of these people. So it's just kind of fun. And I think we can sometimes we watch it and we're like, oh, we could do that. If we were 20 years younger,
Yeah.
we could go do that. So it's kind of
I
fun to
mean,
watch together.
that's why people watch this podcast, because this is pretty much like reality TV too, like
Yeah.
from
See?
30 years ago. It's
Uh-huh.
very, right. It's like it brings back a lot of those like types of things and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Man, where I'm just, I forgot what I was gonna ask, but okay, so any other memories from high school that maybe stand out?
So
Senior
it's
year,
funny.
anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it's funny when you had Darius on the podcast because he's married to
Yep.
Monica. He mentioned that
Yep.
in his thing too. And so I never knew Darius very well just on my own, but when I believe him and Monica started dating our junior year, and then obviously like they're married, I was in their wedding, which was really awesome. But I remember sophomore year, one of the things that's always been true about me is I'm very expressive, and often my face doesn't look like it should, right? Like
Yeah.
someone's talking, but like, I just don't understand what they're saying. I might be like I'm at work because I work remote. So it's all teams. Sometimes my team members will Slack me or message me, Amber, your face. Cause I'm like,
Yeah.
and it's not because
Yeah.
I hate what the person's saying. It's just because I'm like
Yes.
processing. And so we were in like math class or something, and someone was talking, and I must have been making a face at them. And this person, I don't even have to not name names because I do not remember who it was, but person turned around and was like, who are you looking at? What are you looking at? And I was just like literally
Yeah.
nothing, right? Trying to
Yeah.
start nothing. And Darius kind of chimed in and was like, that girl's not looking at you. She's not doing anything. And I was just like, oh my God, thank God. And we just kind of went about our business. And again, nothing against
Yeah.
the person that had said something. I
Yeah.
probably was looking at them crazy.
Exactly.
Just not intentful. So fair enough. If someone's looking at you crazy, that you might say, why are you looking at me like that? But I remember being so nervous in that moment of like, oh my gosh, I have nothing, right? Like I am not a confrontational person. I really don't even know what to say back here. And then Darius stepped in. So that's always when I remember with him of like, we weren't friends then, and but I just always remember that. And then senior year, I remember prom. I feel like Brianne talked about that, and like
Yeah.
how it was on the boat and it was so
Yes.
fun. And she said something that I would never have pulled out on my own, but the fact that we all had to stay, right? That it wasn't like come for the pictures or come for 10 minutes. It was like, get on the boat, go on the boat trip, get off the boat. And then after prom, myself and Tanika and Aaron and our boyfriends at the time, we all went to Ocean Shores, which also feels crazy. It was definitely still during high school. I was not 18, but our parents let us go overnight to Ocean Shores, which is just wild.
Yeah.
So again, I think I was telling you, I don't have a ton of high school memories, but I do remember seeing you some fun things from senior year like that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I forgot to oh, did you have any pictures
I
that you
do.
wanted to share that maybe you
Yeah.
have on your Hey, before we take a look at these old school Spanaway pictures, did you know I'm also a licensed life insurance broker? That's right. I help folks just like you make sure your family's protected no matter what life throws your way. Look, I know talking about life insurance isn't exactly exciting, but as your Swayside connector who understands our community, I can make the process painless and actually kind of pleasant. Whether you have young kids at home or you're thinking about retirement, I'm licensed across Washington, Arizona, Texas, and Virginia to find you coverage that fits your life and budget. Hit me up after the show because the best time to get life insurance was yesterday. The second best time, today. Let's chat. No pressure, just protection. Let's go.
Yeah, it was definitely fun having an excuse to like pull these out.
Yeah. Let me know if you can see.
Yeah.
No,
No,
this is
this should
perfect.
be all
Thank
in
you.
one. But so I
Oh, this
don't
is
know if you
amazing.
remember. So in junior high, we always used to have like the photographers would come in for everything. Do you remember that? There was like so
Kind of.
many times. So I have like so many of these kind of pictures with like me and one other person, or a group of people where we're all dressed. Like I'm like, Monica, what are we wearing? Why do you have a doll? What is going on? Because this is definitely
Awesome.
like probably 8th grade for me and 7th grade for her. But
Yeah.
what are we doing and why?
So
But
did you
here
have
we
to
are.
pay for these, right? So you had to pay for these then,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
But like I think you could like do as many as you wanted with different groups. Like I imagine that if people like went back into their archives, there's a lot of us that have these weird photos.
And this is during the school day, right? You
Yep.
had so
Yes.
we all had like appointments, right? You had to
Yep.
get an appointment.
Huh?
Man, I kind of remember this. Man,
Yep.
looking back though, I think as a dude, I was like very not interested in like
Fair.
doing too many of
Fair.
these, right? But like looking back, I would have totally told myself, dude, do as many of these as you can. Like you will
Yes.
love these later. Cause I don't
Yeah.
remember ever leaving class to take pictures for anything like
Yeah.
this.
It's
And
funny
it's
that you
like,
say that though, because that's like all photos, right? There's like like with parents, they take so many pictures of their kids, and it's like, oh, it's probably with
yes,
everybody. I don't think it's relegated to parents, but like get in the picture, right? Because
yes,
in 10 years, you don't care how you looked, what you did. You just love that you're in that moment with your family, friends at the Eiffel Tower, whatever. Like get in the picture. And so I
yes.
think it's a good memory of this. Okay. And so this one, I think it's probably at Tanika's house, judging by the pictures, but it's like Tanika, Tony, Susan, and Jenny. And I don't know. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why did we take this picture? But again, I'm so glad we have it because it's not a great
Yeah,
picture, but
absolutely.
it's just a cool of us all just hanging out at Tanika's house, which is something we did.
Yeah. I love these snapshots too of
Yeah.
just like of time, it's just
Yeah.
like, man, what a time.
And then the blank ones are just ones that ended up not coming out well. And so I had like the lighting then. And so this one, the two fellas, I do not know, but that's Jenny, who now goes by Quinn. We went to Roger's homecoming our sophomore year. And literally it was like the date from, it was awful. It was awful. Like Quinn and I like dined out on those stories for like ever. It was just, they probably didn't like us either, but the boys were not good. We ended up
It
like
was not the best
yelling at
time.
them. It was just crazy. So,
Wow.
and then this next one, I can't remember if this would have been 9th grade dance or something in high school. I cannot remember, but obviously that's Tanika and I at some
Yeah.
dance looking.
Is this high school?
I can't remember if it's 9th grade dance or maybe like
Ninth
sophomore
grade?
Tolo. It's
Okay.
one of those two, but I can't remember. I think
this might be sophomore.
Yeah, I think it, because
That
remember
background
Tolo? Yeah.
looks kind of familiar.
Yeah.
So, because I just feel like other people's, I don't know, I might be wrong. This might be ninth grade too. I don't know. Who knows? But
I
like,
don't remember going to 9th grade dance. And I know I went to sophomore Tolo. it's, kind of hard to remember.
Yes, exactly. Man, these are awesome.
Yeah. And then these two, Ryan and Kenny, you probably would have known Kenny from track. But they're a year behind us in school, but we were a group of us were very close, and they were two of my closest friends. And Kenny, I actually still talk to today. We still keep up with each other. Yeah. And then this one didn't turn out well, but I just love this photo. It's me and Jenny and Katie, and Kina is the face you can't really see, but we're sitting in junior high, sitting in front of the office after school, because why were we always at school after school? But we were. And it's not like we thought we were cool, but we definitely thought we were cool, right? We were a group. We loved each other. And I can remember the vibes with these three. And we just, especially ninth grade. So bad picture, but invokes a lot of lovely memories.
Great memories. Yeah.
Yeah. And
wow, these are amazing.
Yeah. Jonah, Michael, who we called Taco, Katie. And this breaks my heart because I can remember being close with her. I cannot recall the name of the gal in the back. Tara. Okay. I was like, I actually had a T in my head, but I remember she was the nicest. And but that's awful, right? When you're like, oh, I know I liked this person so much. I just probably haven't said their name.
It's 30 years too. Yeah. Literally. Because these are pre-95. So, this is like junior high.
This is probably 8th grade. These are probably eighth grade photos. But look at Jonah in her little jacket.
Yeah. These are so good.
Yeah. And then I remember bathroom pictures, because you do, right? Like, I mean, now I think they're probably very cracked down at schools, like don't take pictures in the bathroom, but we would all congregate in the bathroom and and this is when you had to have a camera. So I'm like carrying a camera around with me to get these pictures.
Dude, these are golden. These are golden. Man, you're amazing, because like not only do you have these solid pictures, these are formatted in a way that is amazing for the viewers too, because they're not as choppy as some of my other photo sharing experiences. So
it's funny, in this one you can see the photo collage, right? So there's a nod to the photo collage, and then Yeonjun and Aaron, and then I think that around my arm is the camera. So this is the camera I was carrying around.
Wait, then who was taking this picture? That's what's funny. It's like, so somebody else with the camera had to have their camera.
Or maybe I gave them my camera and was like, here, I need to be in a picture. Take a picture of me.
Because it's a funny how things have changed since we used to have, because all these pictures, you had to take, and then you had to go in and that was such a process.
Yeah. And you didn't know what they were going to look like, right? You didn't know if they were good or bad.
You had to wait like a week sometimes, right? You had to wait a week just to get these pictures, just to see how they turned out.
Yep.
Nobody's waiting a week these days after they're taking pictures, right? It's like everything is so instant. Yeah. By the way, that's a great picture with Yeonjun and
I know, I love that one. So this would be in prom. So this is a prom picture that our senior ball on the boat. So that's Robbie and I at my mom's house with the wood paneling in her Spanaway house before.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And here's one of Kina and I. Yeah. So I think this one would have been 9th grade year. Maybe sophomore, but I think 9th grade. We're so cool.
These are awesome.
And then here's back to those pictures that they came in and takes.
Yeah, because like all these backgrounds, I have I don't have any memories of like me taking any pictures with these backgrounds. So it's like
maybe it was more girl
for sure. And then it was like, was it you and Louis that did these, or was it like just another local photographers? Man, these guys were making money.
It
right?
probably was. That one, what that you said, because now it's all Life Touch, but it probably was them that was coming.
Yeah, Life Touch.
And this would have been sophomore year. She was Jenny then. She's Quinn now, but I can't remember where we were. But I always loved this picture of her because she looked so happy. I don't think she likes it of herself, but I always loved it. She's seen it. And then another front of office picture where we're all just so cool. But I do really love this picture.
Where was this at?
So right in Cedar Crest, right in front of the office. Remember there was like that bench right outside the window of the office upstairs? I don't know why we were always sitting there, but I remember we spent a lot of time there, like right across from the payphone.
So is the front door on the right of this? I'm trying to think.
Yes.
Or is it? Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Because like I have like it's hard for me to remember some of these, like the layout of the school and stuff. So
Yeah. And so this one would have been 7th grade.
7th grade, nice.
With Nicole. It's
Yes.
neat. I still see her on social media. So she's one that I've kept up through that medium with.
Yeah.
There's Tanitra. I was so happy when I found this one.
Aaron Asian. Oh yeah, this is awesome. Aaron
So
Asian
remember how
Tanitra.
Tanitra was talking about like walking back and forth? This was probably on one of our walks home from school or to school where we snapped a picture because that was the group of us that would walk back and forth.
Man, it's so crazy. It's so like mindful of you to like at that time take these pictures. Because
I'm
these are
so
all
glad now.
amazing. Yeah. Oh my God, these are also really good.
It's funny, Kina and I keep up on Goodreads. So that's how Kina and I are connected these days, is we follow each other on Goodreads. So I can see what she's reading, she can see what I'm reading. So that's a fun little connection as life has evolved. Now what are you reading these days? That's what we're keeping up with.
And like I said, man, I've never been a reader, but I'm trying to be. I'm trying to force myself to be one these days.
Yeah.
And so, man, that's awesome. Man, these were amazing pictures.
Oh, good.
And this
Yeah,
is
it was fun
amazing
finding
format
them.
too. Yeah, amazing format to let us look at those. So
Yeah, I'm glad especially since I couldn't share, I'm glad it worked out.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. And like this type of stuff happens all the time too when it comes to doing these podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
Looking back at those pictures, like, and some of these fun things, like, man, what businesses do you remember from back in the day that maybe not isn't around anymore that you remember going to and that may be kind of nostalgic to your
Yeah,
Spanaway memories?
it's funny. I don't know. Is Sprinker still there? Right? There was like the
Yeah, I think
Sprinker, like
so. Yeah.
roller skating or ice skating, maybe. So
Ice
I kind of
skating.
remember
Yeah.
that. I remember. It's funny. I don't remember like there was like the Shakey's Pizza. I feel like we went there sometimes. Do you remember
Yeah.
Shakey's Pizza? I feel like there'd be
Yes.
school things there sometimes, but really I remember more hanging out at people's houses. Like it wasn't a lot
Okay.
of like high school. I can remember like a lot of like Jack in the Box and McDonald's and Subway. And
Yes.
I worked at the South Hill Mall. I worked at the Taco Time that I don't think is there anymore, but was there for years and years and years.
Was that your first job?
Yeah. Yeah. My first job was Taco Time at the South Hill Mall.
Nice. How old were
Yeah.
you? What grade were you? And how old were you?
Yeah. So I was 17. I think I got the job right before senior year, and it had been kind of a good evolution because, as we said, I was in my car accident. We didn't know what my prognosis was going to be, right? Like I could walk, so that was good. That wasn't a problem, but how pain free I would be, how mobile I would be, like all of that was in question. But really, through junior year, I had just healed so much that I felt ready to get this job. I wasn't wearing my back brace anymore, but I can remember my parents being very nervous.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, and my parents were not like sugarcoating down. No, not at all. They were like, get out there, do it. You're fine. Rub some dirt on it. But, I had been so injured. And so they were like, are you going to be able to hold up to this? But I just felt like I could. And I really it's so funny. My 16-year-old, Cracker Barrel. Do you know the restaurant Cracker Barrel?
Yes.
My 16-year-old works at Cracker Barrel, and he just wants to work. It's really important to him, but that's how I felt. I'm like, I want to work. I want a job. I want to contribute. So yeah, but I loved working at Taco Time. It was like one of the funnest jobs I ever had.
My gosh. Was this, you said, was this in the mall or?
Yeah. Yep. Do you remember Deanna, who I think she ended up being our prom queen senior year, but she worked there. She worked there too. So that was fun.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. But the one in South Hill Mall.
Wow. That's funny. Yeah, because South Hill Mall, I didn't really go there much until our senior year, and so but I didn't really, so I didn't really like, because I was mostly in Lakewood a lot, because I had a lot of friends that lived out in that way, so I would go to Lakewood Mall a lot instead of like, but then I didn't realize how close we were to South Hill, like until senior year. It was just like, I can't believe this is like right here. This is because it's the totally opposite direction of Lakewood. So it was just like, I didn't know there was stuff back here. So that's kind of how I looked at that.
Yeah, I was going to say my sister had worked at that mall, a different place in the food court. So maybe that's why I knew it was there, because we actually went to Tacoma Mall more, because Katie lived out in Tacoma.
Yep.
And so we would kind of meet out there and go to Tacoma Mall. So I've obviously been to
Same.
Lakewood Mall, but it was mainly Tacoma Mall. And then, yeah, maybe my sister was the one that introduced me to South Hill.
Yeah, Tacoma would be the second mall that I would go
Yeah.
to more often
Yeah.
than South Hill Mall. And it wasn't until like, so DJ worked at the Sabaros at South Hill Mall.
Okay.
Yeah. So then that's
Awesome.
kind of how I started going there, is because I was
Okay.
like, oh, and yeah, no, it's so funny. Just, I love hearing everybody's like first time jobs. What kind of music did you listen to? But I want to be a little bit more specific, because this is like, did you have any favorite CDs or cassette tapes? Like specific now, CDs,
Yeah.
cassette tapes that you remember, or even VHS movies. So, because those are all things that people don't use anymore, right? So I'm just like curious on that.
Yeah. So I feel like I've heard some other folks mention it, that Boys to Men CD where like don't let the water
Probably
run
one
dry.
of the best. Yes,
Like
it's
today.
two.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was so good. So I loved that. There was I think this was in high school, but the song, I think it's like Meredith Brooks or something like that, where it's like the song, it's like there's curse words, and I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on
Yeah.
this, but there was a song that I remember feeling like really cool with that song. But it's funny. So Monica and Michelle and I, we would put on songs from like the oldies, like Build Me Up Buttercup.
Yeah.
I had these like CDs, and we would literally just dance around my house, which was like really, really fun. And then Quinn and I were obsessed with the movie Teen Witch. Did you ever watch Teen Witch?
Teen Witch. Who's in that?
So Robin Lively is in it. Funnily, Blake Lively's older sister, but it's like, Google it. It's like very kind of like, it's good. You could watch it today, but it was
Okay.
this movie, but like Quinn
I
and
was a
I would
big
watch
Teen
that.
Wolf fan with Michael J.
Yeah.
Fox, but I was a huge Michael J. Fox back then.
Yeah,
But
I like
yeah.
Michael J. Fox too. And then with
Teen
Monica,
Witch.
we would watch,
Good.
Teen Witch, watch it. It was really good. Like
Okay,
I would
for
watch
sure.
it today, but Monica and I would watch anything Julia Roberts, which like, so we, whatever Julia Roberts, maybe Mystic Pizza, Still Magnolias. I can't really remember what would have been out back then, but so yeah, those are the things I kind of can remember.
Man, that's awesome.
But I love how everybody mentions that Boys to Men CD, because I really do think that was like coming of age for all of us.
1,000%. That one was so good. It had so many, it had like, a lot of albums will have like one really good song. That one had like 4 or 5 that were just really good,
so good.
It's so good. Yeah. Another random question I always ask people, like, this is after high school now, like, where were you at for 9/11? Like, how was your 9/11? Like, what was that experience like?
Yeah. So I had literally gotten married exactly 1 month before. So I got married. I'm divorced and remarried, but I had got married on August 11th. And then, so September 11th was my 1-year anniversary. And I remember we were living in Renton. We both worked in Bellevue. I was working at a school, and my husband at the time was working at a software company. And we were listening to Howard Stern and just listening. And then all of a sudden it like shifted and he went live, because he was East Coast. And so when we were listening into it, we were listening to a recording of that morning, but it switched.
Yeah.
And it went live. They're talking about what's happening, everything that's going on. And I can remember talk about like even the rumors, right? It was like, there's millions of planes in the air and Seattle is a target, right? It was just like so much
Remember that
fear, especially us being kind of, Seattle was such an international destination. I can remember Peter and I looking at each other and being like, do we stay home? What do we do? But we ended up let's just go, let's go to work. So definitely like a crazy time, but it was interesting working with children at the time, because parents were so shocked, right? I worked with, I was first grade, so 6-year-olds at the time. And so kids were seeing this too. And I can remember maybe like a week or two later, we kind of aligned as a school what we were going to say to the kids, but it was like, and then kind of shared that messaging with the parents, like, hey, we have to address this, because if we don't, if even your kid doesn't know about this, they're going to know by the end of the day, right? Because the kids are talking. But there was a little guy who was like, I just can't believe this is happening every single day. And we're like, what do you mean this is happening every single day? He's like, every single day there's planes going into buildings. And he's like, it's so scary. And like kind of the mentality of children, they're watching the news.
They don't know.
And they don't realize, they think we're under attack every single day. And so that was something like that I always kind of, and then I actually went on to be, I was kind of a teacher's aide at that time, but went on to be a teacher for my early career. And I always kind of remembered that, like, just kids are exposed to adult things without adult understanding. And so having to be really careful how you talk about the world and what's going on with kids, because they don't have your perspective and a different level of permanence. But that was one of the big things I remember about a week later, a little guy just being like, I can't believe this just keeps happening every day. And I was like, oh my gosh, how many kids in the
Yeah.
world think this is happening every day because they're watching it on their news, and their parents don't think to tell them, hey, this is the news. This isn't happening again and again.
Yes.
But yeah, it's such a crazy time that I do think everyone our age and probably a little older, maybe a little younger, it's such a formative moment.
Because we were, 2021,
Yeah.
22, like we're in that so like we already formed our thoughts of the world and,
Yep.
what was already pretty concrete. So for that to happen during that age was just such a mind-blowing thing that
Yeah.
that's why it's like that's why I like kind of asking that random question, because
Yeah.
everybody remembers
Yeah.
what happened to them that day and how they like dealt with it and stuff. Because I think I was driving to I worked in Shoreline, and I was actually staying in Lakewood, so I was driving from Lakewood to Shoreline, and I think I was listening to the radio, and maybe it was probably sports radio too, or maybe it was like Cube or something. Anyways, I don't really remember the radio station really saying or mentioning anything about it. But when I got to work, because I was also like, I think I started at like 7 a.m. in
Jeez.
Shoreline. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So I had to leave Lakewood like before 6, but I
Oh.
was late. So I would think I was like late by like 10-15 minutes. And I remember getting there, and my coworker was, and I'm just like, I'm I'm late and I feel bad already. And my coworker was like, because I was like a porter, or I did valet for a car dealership in Shoreline. And I remember getting there, and my coworker was like, we're getting bombed right now. And I was like, I'll change and I'll change real quick and I'll be ready. And he was like, no, like the country's getting bombed. And I was like, what? And then that's when it like,
Whoa.
I didn't understand what was going on. I was
Yeah.
just self-conscious because I was like 15 minutes late. I was just
Yeah.
like,
You're like, oh, we're
I'll try
getting
to
bombed.
change.
We're busy. I got it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought he was saying. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, and yeah, so then that just like, and it's such a random thing, and that dude probably said that in passing, but it was just like, it's funny because I'll never forget that like what that
Yeah.
meant, when I ended up going to work that day. So
Yeah.
just kind of, yeah, just one of those things. Now I'm just going randoms now. Where do you, because this is just kind of like been a recent thing, and it's also interests me because, you're out of state, you're not in Washington, but like,
Yeah.
where do you like going grocery shopping? That's like,
I'm going to answer this, but then I also want to understand the origin of the interest in this question. So very funny. I'm very fortunate. I don't think I've been to the grocery store in like 10 years because my husband is the cook in the household and he likes to shop.
that's
So
gangster. Okay.
I shop nowhere. However, my husband, we have a Safeway across the street that he loves. He likes Costco, but he does a lot of, because
Mm.
he is trained in a lot of different things culinary wise, but he worked in Asian restaurants. So that's really one of his favorite things to cook.
Oh my
But then
God.
lately, we,
You must have some amazing meals at your house. Holy
oh
crap,
yes,
Amber.
literally.
Damn,
Oh yeah.
dude. What
No,
the?
I'm so lucky.
Okay,
I am so
dude.
lucky.
Oh my
But he also
gosh.
he orders things online too. Like from there's like fishmongers and different things that you can get online, and so kind of all over. But yeah, no, I didn't really know what it meant when I was marrying a chef, but I'm not sad that I have lucked into this life because it is pretty amazing. Like he is literally like out of this world.
What's like what of man, so okay, maybe like top 3 favorite, or just even what's your favorite thing that maybe he makes? Because now I'm like super curious, just like damn, because I can only imagine he's probably got a wide array of things that
Yeah.
he makes.
So everything, like he makes everything really good. But one of my favorite things is, so it's funny, growing up military, my parents they were cooks in the military. And so on, a lot of holidays, but the one I can remember specifically is Thanksgiving. They
Mm.
were working, right? So they had to work. They were cooking for the soldiers and they would bring us stuff home. And there was no bad feelings about that, right? But because we were always deployed somewhere, it's not like we went to family. So my sister and I were alone. Again, this is not a sob story, but we were just alone. So we didn't grow up eating turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, none of that. And so I have a theory, unpopular theory, that you only like that food if you grew up eating it, because I don't like Thanksgiving food at all. And so, yeah, like no turkey, no stuffing, mashed potatoes. I hate them. But so on Thanksgiving, my
Dare you.
husband makes like, I know, but I think you'll like this part of it. He makes like an Asian feast. So he does like pad kee mao and lumpia and duck and lamb chops, and just so Thanksgiving, we actually have a lot of people come to our house now. But I'm like, don't expect turkey or mashed potatoes. Don't bring that into my home. We're not having that here. But so that's probably one of my favorite things that he cooks is like Thanksgiving. It's a feast, but it is of a eclectic Asian variety. It's really good.
That is so crazy because I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of like, and I think like you're right. I think if you grew up on it, you like it because I'm a big
Yeah.
fan. I'll eat a Thanksgiving type of meal like almost any time of the year. Like if I were to show up on somebody's house in like mid-July and that's
Yeah.
what I would be excited. I'm not the biggest fan of turkey, so I'd rather have like a ham. And mashed potatoes are okay, but the only reason why I like it is because of the gravy. But I love stuffing. So it's just like that's probably the one thing that I really enjoy and that
Yeah.
if there's like something that I could eat more often that I don't eat enough would be stuffing. But also
Yeah.
that I cover most of that stuff with gravy anyway. So it's mostly like if you really make a good gravy, I love that. Like the gravy
Okay.
is huge for me. So that's why it's one of those things that I
Yeah, that
like
makes
to.
sense. Okay, before we lose it, why do you ask the grocery store question? Like what's interesting about that to you?
I think for me, it's like as we get older, we find different joys in life. And so I was talking to, and this is from Jay Nalder's episode, just kind of like how he really enjoys, like it's the new club for a lot of us. He really enjoys going to Costco. Like that's our club now that
Which
we're in
it
our
is a club.
40s.
You know, Costco is a
It
club,
is a
so
club.
it is a
It is
club.
a club. It is a club. So like that's why I also asked that because it's like I'm also curious because different people have different places that they enjoy. And
Yeah.
so like for him it's Costco is like, and he's really proud of like how many of us also like to kind of go to Costco too. And so it's just one of those and that's why I ask it, just because I think it's
Yeah.
appropriate for our age group. For it's just another thing that like if you were to ask this question 20 years ago, it would not even be a question. But for a lot of
No.
us it's weird because there's like there's like a therapeutic thing for people just going grocery shopping. I think there's like I don't know, maybe it's just like a maturity thing also. And like I don't know, it's just a different way of life. But it's like I think a lot of people could just also relate to
Yeah.
just going out and going grocery shopping. And so that's why it's just one of those kind
Yeah.
of things. Is there any other like, because everybody gets so many things online and like they order things online, even your husband, you said he orders stuff online. Is there certain things that like is there any stores that you like really like to go to or like physical stores? Because like for us it may be grocery, but you don't really do that. So is there other stores
Yeah.
that you enjoy going to?
No. I do. I'm a big like restaurant person. I do. If I leave the house, I'm probably going either to a friend's house or to a restaurant. I hate shopping, physical shopping. Like I like to shop online. I don't
Yeah,
know what it is. I don't like, again, I don't mind leaving my house. I'm not a hermit, but it's probably for a restaurant, friend's house, something like that. If there's like a store involved, it really takes a lot to get me
for
to
sure.
go there. Yeah.
For
So
sure. You said
yeah.
restaurants. Like, do you have any favorite? Man, it's tough. I mean, for you kind of got it made when you married a chef, right? And so you're just eating good food all the time. So I could only imagine like what type of restaurants would you go to when you have so much good food all over the
Yeah.
place?
Well, so what's funny, well, I don't think it's funny to him, but I did cook for years in my life, but I do not cook now at all. Like literally when my husband's name is Raphael, when he travels, he makes sure I have like pizza rolls and toast because I'm just like full pass. I'm not going to cook for myself. I just don't want to. So it has to be very minimal. So we actually do eat out a lot because no one wants to cook all the time, right? Which is
Yeah,
fair.
absolutely. Yep,
But we're pretty eclectic in our taste. Like we kind of like we do like ambiance, but we don't like anywhere that's like too vibey. Like people are going to sort of, and there's nothing wrong with this. People should get their joy how they find it. But if it's kind of like too much of a scene, it's not really for us. But we are like oh, a new restaurant opened, we have to go.
Nice.
Right? Because we want to be in the conversation about the food. So sometimes we
Yes.
find ourselves at places where we're like, we are not cool enough to be here. We should have waited another 6 months. But then it's fun when someone's like, oh, have you been to like Uchi or have you been to Pyro? And we're like, yes. And so, but like this weekend, we went to a place called Ingo's on Friday, which is literally like chicken sandwiches, deviled eggs, shattered chips, and they have really good greyhounds. But it's like you order at a counter, you sit on a patio. We brought our dog, and
I was
so
gonna
it's
say
just
those are like picnic foods. Like those are
yeah,
like you grab
yeah,
all those, put it in a picnic basket,
yep,
set out by the lake in the find some shade on
yep,
a nice sunny day and enjoy. Like all those things like sound
yeah,
amazing. So it's like the
yeah,
setup sounds pretty good for that too.
yeah. But like super casual. We kind of just went after work, and then next Friday we're going to a new place called Zinc Bistro, which is kind of like a French restaurant. So that'll be a little bit fancier, but we've never been there before. But really, like almost anything. We don't like buffets because I don't know, we're just not into buffets. Nothing wrong with buffets, but that's not for us. But almost anything else. Like if someone's like, oh, it was good, we want to go, right? We covet, right? Like if you're like, oh, I went to a good restaurant, I'm like, where? And can I get in?
Yeah,
So yeah, we're big restaurant people.
it's
So
awesome.
if you
It must
come to
be.
Phoenix, come for Thanksgiving. You can come to my house. I maybe will
Oh my
tell Raph
God.
he can make you some stuffing. But if anyone ever comes to Phoenix and needs restaurant recos, hit me up.
Yeah. So when people bring up Spanaway, when you hear the term Spanaway, what do you think of?
It's funny. I'll be honest, like prior to you starting this whole thing, when people thought about Spanaway, it's like, oh, my mom's there, my sister's there, Monica's there. So I try to get home at least once a year to see those, and my dad's there too, right? My mom encompasses you know how it is, my mom and my
Yes.
dad, and then my sister and her whole family. And then I always see Monica when I go home. So it's honestly really what I would think. I didn't really have a lot of like other thoughts. It was just that. But then since this whole thing, it really is kind of like, oh man, like that's where I'm from. That's where
Mm,
like the people that know you win, right? Like the people that know
yeah.
you before you have the perspective and like you've accomplished something and it's just neat. So it's definitely been having a little bit of a different feeling these like last like I don't even know how long you've been doing this. I feel like I discovered it like a month or two ago, but it's
Yeah.
definitely brought back
2
a
months.
different feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. What type of feeling? What do you mean? Like, is good feeling, bad
Yeah,
feeling? Like,
no,
because
good
there's some
feeling.
people that have trauma from Spanaway too. Because some
Yes.
people, right? So, and like
Yeah.
a lot of people have very positive things to say about it. But man, Spanaway by far was not a perfect place by any
No.
means.
No,
And
no,
there's a lot of
no.
people that have trauma from it, but that's why
Yeah.
I I don't know. I'm not saying I'm trying to take that away, but I like to highlight the good things. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's
Yeah.
why.
No,
Sorry.
for me it's positive. Like I definitely it's that like just kind of like lovely like nostalgic feeling. It's hard to kind of like
Mm,
really get your arms around it describing it besides that. It's just like a little bit of like a like this because I think sometimes we move so fast, right? And we have different like I have a good handle on like my early like late teens early 20s because that's when I met my ex-husband who's the father of my children, and then 20s are kind of a blur, but small children, right? There's so many different defining moments, but
for
you
sure.
kind of forget, maybe I forgot a little bit about like those moments with like Katie and Kina and Tanika and Monica and Michelle and all of these moments. And I could, go on and on and on, right? Like there's so many people that I had just so much love for. Cause that's one of the things I feel
Mm,
like kind of going back to like the Cedar Crest days and then like kind of probably like more like junior, senior years, like everybody that was in my life, I just remember loving them and feeling very loved by them. And that's something that in my adult friendships, I've always like held on to. Like I don't have a lot, maybe for someone my age, I have a lot of friends, but I don't have like a lot of friends, but who I have, I love. Like they're the people that it's funny, actually, my girlfriend called me at like 8:30. That's not late, but that is late. Also, don't call me, text me. But my phone rang at 8:30 and we were in the middle of dinner and I was like, it popped up on my watch and I'm like, I got to get this. And then I'm like, hello. And she's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, okay.
yeah.
And it's funny. She wanted a food recommendation. So then I was like back in it. But like, right. Like everyone in my life, I feel like I could call it all hours. They would call me. They celebrate me. They celebrate my kids. And so I don't know that. So lots of words to say. I feel like it's neat remembering how long ago I had that, right? Like that's not new. I've
Mm,
had that when I was a kid too with some of these people. So yeah, I love that. I love that you're doing this. Like I think
thank
it's
you.
just wonderful.
I'm just thankful for everybody that watches. It's
Yeah.
like, attention is huge these days. And so for people to sit down for however long that they sit down on these, I'm very thankful. If there was a person that you could reconnect with that maybe you haven't seen or talked to from Spanaway in a long time, is there anybody out there like that for you?
I feel like I'm sure there's a long list, but I'll tell you one person I would love to just sit down with and talk about their like post high school. Martha. Do you remember Martha?
Yeah. Yep.
Seems like she's doing really neat things in her career,
Yeah.
and we are connected on social media, but probably haven't really like talked. I think it was back in the late and early teens where everybody was on Facebook
Yes.
and connecting. So we're connected, but I don't think we've really had
Yes.
like a proper catch up. But I've been able to kind of follow her career journey, and it
Yep.
looks cool. So she's definitely someone that I would
Yeah.
love to like just sit down with and like catch up with. There's always like I would love like one day to like sit down with like, maybe Katie, Keena, Shantae, and kind of just talk about like our junior high days and the fun we had. Asia and Aaron too. So probably a lot of people that you should like, if we ever do like, I didn't go to any reunions, nor did I ever want to. Now is the moment that I would love to go to a reunion more than any other time. Cause I'm like, I just want to see everybody and hear what they're doing and catch up on
Yeah.
like the now. Not that we wouldn't reminisce, but I just want to know what everyone's doing.
I think that's part of why people like this because, people are nosy too. And
Yeah.
this is a very laid back way and very non-committal. You don't have to like get dressed up and go somewhere. You could just literally on your phone, on your TV, literally wherever you're at, you could basically, let me catch up with Amber today, or let me catch up with Brienne today, or let me catch up, and so people get to do this. So I understand that's also why people do this. But what I've been realizing though too is, I think a lot of people, I think in real life events are becoming a thing that people want to be a part of. And so, who knows what this will be, but I think eventually like trying to get more of those to happen is kind of maybe the goal of what maybe this will come. And even if it's just like one-on-ones with people you haven't talked to that have nothing to do with me or, you or whoever, like just, it feels good to know that, hey, maybe people are that haven't talked to each other in a long time or just, maybe reconnecting. But my other thing that I also like doing this for is to remind people like, man, the best is yet to come for all of us, basically. And so don't think that like as we get older, like, oh, I missed my time or whatever like that. It's like, dude, I still feel, maybe it's because I'm so immature, but it's like, like I still feel pretty young, so don't count me out for like stuff to do life and do all these other things. And so that's the other thing I also just wanted to kind of land the plane. If you could go back to, 1998 to yourself when we graduated and have a conversation with yourself, like what would that conversation look like?
Man, yeah, that's such a hard question. I think what I know now versus, what I knew then, if you could give yourself the gift of perspective, right? Like things, one of like just really cementing. I think if I had known younger, firmer understanding of that, my perspective is only my perspective, right? Because I think sometimes when you're young, when you think something, you believe something, you almost think there's some facts to it. And it's like, no, it's what you remember. It's what you felt. It's what it meant to you. The person on the other side or the people on the other side have so many different perspectives. But I think when I was young, I don't know how much I knew that. Like, right, I know other people have feelings, but right, I probably thought my feelings were a little bit more facts. And I think there's some things that happened in my life, friendships that changed, relationships that changed, maybe would have gone better if I'd understood more about perspective. But then I think the other thing is just that it's going to be okay, right? Like hard thing. And this is something I tell my kids a lot of like what you feel today, you might not feel tomorrow. So give it tomorrow, right? Get to tomorrow because and like my poor children, because like they'll have a bad day and it'll be and empathy, right? But I say, hey, just remember, like this is today. Tomorrow will be different. And then the next day they're bopping around, and I'm like, try not to be too heavy-handed with it, but I'm like, isn't it
Told
interesting
you.
what
I
24
told
hours
you.
can do? Yeah. But I can remember having things happen, and you just feel like this is it, right? Like, and not in like too much of a like I won't
No,
live on, but like
I
this is
felt
how
like
I'll
that
feel
a lot
forever.
of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like everything, it's crazy how big the world is after, because I felt like that a lot of times at in those junior high school ages where
Yeah.
something terrible happened and you feel like you're going to feel like that for the rest of eternity. And it's like, dude, life is so big. Like there's so
Yeah.
many bigger things than like what you just see on a day to
Yeah.
day. And no, so I agree with you 1,000%, like our
Yeah.
perspective. And that's why I love hearing people's like this answer is like, it shows how wise everybody is since graduating, because these are such, I think it's one of the most important segments of this, just like what gives people a chance to talk about like what they've learned and like
Yeah.
how they would express that to themselves to really help them.
It's funny. I knew this was going to be great because I know you're really good at this. Like, I've been watching and just the conversations. I'm
Thank
like,
you.
and I believe in my recollection that we were friendly in junior high. Again, high school is a blur for me, so I don't remember too much about high school. But I don't. This is probably the most we've really talked maybe in our lives.
1,000%. 1,000%. I don't
But
think
I
I've
knew
ever had a chance to, because it's weird. You don't really get a chance to sit down and just say, "Hey, tell me all about your,
yeah,
deepest
not at
like
13.
thoughts." Yeah, and and stuff like that. But and I'm thankful that you, man, that you trust me and that you're willing to be courageous enough to come on here and just talk about, like I said, like things that you really wouldn't have a normal conversation with people with. Try to just let these flow. And, this is basically for all of us people from Spanaway, not just our class. People are like, oh, this is just for 98. It's like, nah, it's for more, like, I'd like more people to come on because
Yeah,
not everybody says yes to these either.
yeah,
But yeah, this is just a way I can give back and also kind of build a YouTube channel and maybe help people start their own YouTube channels, because I feel like all of our lives are very interesting. I feel like we came from a very funny age and stuff. And so I think we have just great sense of humor. I'm just high on our age group of people and like also Spanaway people in general. And I just think we're talented. And so the more of us that come on here, we could show the world just kind of like what type of people we are. And so, yeah, so that's kind of why I do this, but thank you for joining the podcast today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys all on the next one.